The True Line. It started when I first heard the music. I'm not going to tell you how I came into possession of this particular music, nor am I going to tell you what it sounded like or anything particular about it, because even knowing these things can have an effect. All you need to understand is that this particular music, when I heard it, forced me to walk in a straight line. I was at home at the time, in my London flat. I had started to listen to the song with my wireless headphones. As soon as the music started, I felt the itch to start moving. By then it was already too late, but I kept listening, not yet aware of the mistake I was making. And then, just as the first track neared its end, I rose from the sofa, turned and faced the wall, and started walking. Have you ever seen an NPC in a video game walk into a wall? Or a speedrunner trying to clip through a wall to get to areas of the game map they're not supposed to? I had walked over to the wall and onto the armchair which kept me from the wall. After standing on the armchair, I just kept walking into the wall, knocking off a picture frame. The thing was, the music was fresh to my ears and still playing, so its effect was at its strongest. I was completely lucid of what I was doing, but that part of my brain that would signal for me to stop simply didn't exist anymore. The closest thing I could compare the feeling to is being in the throes of an addiction. Whether it be pornography, or drinking, or even gambling, you know what you're doing isn't good for you, that you have to stop. But there's just something not there. The will. The care factor. Did it hurt headbutting the picture frame of my recent university graduation photo off the wall? You bet. Did I care? Certainly. I wanted to stop with every fiber of my being, but I just simply couldn't. I kept going, walking against the wall, feeling the coarse wallpaper rubbing against my brow and rubbing at the skin. I think I lost a few eyebrow hairs in the process. In under a minute, I reached the corner of the living room. There should have been nowhere else to go, but stopping simply wasn't an option. I had hoped, though I couldn't stop, and I was pretty sure I was having some kind of stroke by this point, that reaching the wall would ease the burden to keep moving in a straight line. Thing was, I was already off the line, and it hurt, worse than any migraine, or worse than any flop sweat indigestion. And still, the music continued to play in my head. I was on to the second track, but its effect was still the same. Keep moving. Stay the line. I reached for the door handle, found it locked, so I took a moment to unlatch it. Then the door opened, and I stepped out onto the small balcony, and I kept walking. This was where I feared I might walk straight off the balcony. Below there was a car, which I had to rapidly consider as the least worst option to jump down onto. Besides the car, which was a simple four-seater, all that remained was a drop which would likely break my ankles. That was when I discovered some freedom to my situation. I didn't have to simply fling myself over the balcony. There was no stopping, but I had a tiny bit of my brain to work with to decide how I would get back to the true line. Instead of just up and overing myself over the balcony railing, I stopped, climbed over carefully, and then did my best to control my fall onto the car. I landed with a thump, landing squat, and the car's alarm started going off. It was midday, so the odds of people nearby seeing what I had just done was high. Did I want them to see me do it? What if they thought I was trying to do damage to the car on purpose? I moved down to the front of the car and slid on down the front windscreen on my butt. I was wearing slippers when I started playing the music. They looked like large, fluffy monster paws. I was also wearing baggy PJ bottoms, a loose-fitting gray t-shirt with short sleeves, and a navy bathrobe which was currently untied. My mobile phone was tucked into my right bathrobe pocket, and I had the headphones on my head. The only other item of note on my person were my glasses. I'm nearsighted. On the ground, I just kept walking, moving diagonally across the estate. Should I shout for help? I thought. The music was so loud it was making it harder to think too. I thought about taking the headphones off, but the idea of doing so made me almost keel over and vomit. I passed 2 cars and the edge of a large estate building and approached a small garden area with a path which led through to the middle part of another complex. I knew the true straight line would take me through the very thick green bushes ahead of me. But I found I could muster just enough willpower to walk onto the concrete path. It was like a bargain with whatever it was about the music that was forcing me to keep on the line. I'll return to the line immediately after. Just let me walk around, I thought, and I found I could do just that. I walked the path, stomping ahead in my big goofy monster slippers, and kept going. This took me through a garden area, and then into a small car park. It seemed at first the natural progression was to leave the car park through the way the cars would exit on the right. But that, I quickly discovered, was way too far from the true line. So, like when I had walked to the corner of my living room, I had to walk to the corner of the car park too. Throughout all this, I tried to understand why it was I couldn't find the will to take my headphones off, or to stop walking altogether. It didn't help that it felt amazing to stay on the true line. Better than taking off socks after a long day. Better than the first sip from a freshly cracked open can. Better than Friday night at the end of the work week. And that was just the start of my love of true line. At the corner of the car park there was a small little hut-like structure. I walked to the edge of that, climbed over a metal railing. Then I walked through a small tunnel to the other side of the estate building. This put me onto the pavement on the other side, and then I walked into the road. The sudden horrible screech of car tires met my ears. I turned and saw a rotund, middle-aged woman in her car. "What are you doing?" she yelled out, though most of what I could hear was still being drowned out by the music. "I can't stop," I yelled back. This answer didn't seem to be good enough for the woman. She got out of her car and started walking towards me. "Stop! Come here!" she yelled. "Stop!" I thought. The idea of stopping revolted me, but a part of me wanted to try. This woman was angry, sure, but what if I could get her to take the headphones off for me? Maybe that would give me back my right mind. But the closer she got to me, the more a nasty dread gripped me on the inside. Panic, unlike anything I had ever felt before, started to rise up within me. So much so that when the woman tried grabbing for my bathrobe, I let out a scream so loud I would have a sore throat for the rest of the day. I thrashed my arm back, and the woman stopped in her tracks, perplexed by my reaction. I started to jog, staying true to the line. The woman didn't give chase, but instead, the last I saw of her, she had her phone held to her ear. Calling the police? I wondered. Or maybe her husband. I couldn't look back for long, because I walked all the way down the road, crossed over to the other side of the street, and approached a large tree. "Please let me go round it," I pleaded inside my head, but I knew there was some wiggle room. As soon as I realized I could climb over the metal railing, thrash through the bush behind it, and then continue on. The fight in me to resist died out. I did just that, and moved beyond the tree. This took me into the driveway of another estate building at the furthest corner of the whole complex. It seemed like a dead end, because there were no gaps left. Right ahead there was just a house. I wanted to stop but couldn't find the will to do so. The fifth track from the music album. If you feel the need to get up from where you're sitting, that'll be because I just mentioned the music was part of an album. I'm sorry. I'll not mention any more about the music if it can be helped. So I continued on, and found myself standing outside the house in front of me. The front door, just off to my right. The window into what might be the living room to my left. I had hardly any time at all to think about what I might do next. Every second I didn't move forward was like being trapped inside a hot car with the windows shut 100-fold. I tried the door handle to the house. No luck. I knew I didn't have the strength to kick the door down. But what else could I do? I saw in my mind's eye the solution. All I needed to do was drive my head through the window to my left. The glass would break if I hit it hard enough, wouldn't it? Some part of me was excited to try, intrigued even. I couldn't move forward on the true line if I didn't drive my head through the window pane. Please, I pleaded inside my head. Please, no! There was an awful cramp in my neck as I forced my gaze to the ground. There was a small stone turtle ornament next to the doormat. I picked it up and, seeing as it was better than using my head, I smashed in the window with the stone turtle ornament. Move in, move in, move in. My body and mind pleaded with me, but I had just enough lucidity and self-control to use what wits I had left to strike away the sharper bottom and side edges of the window pane. And then I chucked the stone turtle ornament inside and climbed through the window. And it was after landing and getting to my feet that I noticed I had stopped moving, and there, on the carpet among the broken glass, were my headphones. The faint tinny sound of the music. On a new track again. I'm sorry that you've likely been counting the number of tracks which have been playing. I suggest you don't leave your home for the next few days because you might seek Trueline whilst driving or walking down the street. Please don't risk it. For a moment I was filled with joy. The headphones were off. I was free. Because without the music playing directly into my eardrums, how could it have control over me? To make sure I was free, I stomped on my headphones, my right foot aching from the force it took to render the headphones completely obsolete. I was stiflingly hot in my bathrobe, sweating and breathing huffing breaths. But in the silence of the house I had just broken into, I heard it. The music, playing inside my head. I'm sorry to tell you this, I really, really am. But the music is seriously catchy. I turned around to face Trueline and kept walking. It's been a while since it all started. I'm posting this using my phone whilst on the move. I'll try and explain more, but many obstacles lay ahead.